One of the things that you're going to face as a senior leader is you have a limited amount of time. And so you're not going to be able to mentor everyone. So who should you pick? You should pick those leaders that are closest to you, your second, your third in command, leaders that influence your church, children's ministers, youth ministers, and maybe some influential people in your community who are going after apostolic type things, but you're going to have to limit yourself. You can probably safely handle 20 to 30 of these relationships in a month. And the rest you're going to have to let be mentored by other people, and we'll teach you how to build that culture into your church. Most people instinctively know that you need to do life together, pray, be vulnerable when you mentor. But what they don't know is how to help people develop. And that's why most relationships flatline. To build momentum, you have to get people to take baby steps. It's kind of like school. You go to kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, and build upon things little by little. And what happens to the average Joe is they have these huge dreams. I want to plant a church. I want to spend an hour a day reading the Bible. And I want to hear God's voice all the time and witness every moment. They're so big that as soon as they try it, they end up within a week or two quitting because they're just overwhelmed. And so what I do with people is I help them set 2-week goals. So I meet with people that I'm mentoring every 2 weeks, and we do two things in our 2-week goals. First, we make sure it's a baby step. So if someone says, I want to read my Bible an hour a day, and they don't read it at all, I go, that's great. God grows us into our visions. Let's start with 5 verses a day. Because 5 verses is doable, and here's the reality. You'll want to quit at some point. You'll want to give up, but developing integrity here will get you breakthrough. And so do that, and then we can build upon it, and we can go up to 10 or whatever you feel comfortable at the pace you feel comfortable at, and we'll do it for 2 weeks. And then as you do that, make no exceptions. Make no exceptions. Like, don't let yourself rationalize your way out of this. And this is how you grow self-control, is that over time you tell yourself, I am going to do X, and then you do that. And the next time we meet together, they'll come back and say, wow, I did it 10 times out of 14 days or whatever. And what I want to do in this relationship is develop character in this person. A parent develops character in the child. That's part of the role of parenting. And so first of all, you celebrate what they've done. You go, that is great. I love to see the progress. What is going to make you follow through on your promises entirely in the future? What was a snag? And this takes 2 or 3 months of consistently working on one issue with a person before they can come back and say, I did what I said I was going to do. But what happens is, once that happens, there is a momentum that starts to build in their lives. I have seen people go from, let's say they started out with, I'm reading 5 verses a day, and they started applying it to weight and lose 50 pounds because they built momentum over time. They said, I'm going to not drink sodas on Monday. And so they didn't drink sodas on Monday. And then they were able to expand it to 2 days of a week and 3, and then start working out and so on and so forth. but you've got to back the goals up to make them small enough that a person can follow through, because people feel better about momentum than they do about accomplishing large goals. But our society says bigger, better, faster. And so that's what our culture drives people to whenever they go after goals. And so they do everything they can, but they just don't have the self-control and the character to walk into that level of living, that level of anointing. And so as a spiritual parent, I go, that's a great goal. Let's get you there step by step, baby step by baby step. And here's the deal. People thank me for what I teach them. People call me on Father's Day for mentoring them, because they go, you developed character in my life, and no one ever did that. No one ever saw the treasure that was in me and demand that it come out. And so after a while, you're doing this with your staff member, and they're getting breakthrough in their life. You go, do you think you could do that with someone else? And they go, yeah. And so they're mentoring someone else. You now have a grandchild in the spirit, if you will. And that begins to saturate through your church, because eventually the grandchild is able to replicate parenting to another person. And so what you have is a community of people who are going after God's dreams for their life. And it solves a lot of problems for you as a senior leader, which is the problem of execution. How many churches have this problem? Is people say they're going to do something and then don't do it. How many meetings have you sat in that took hours to come to a conclusion and then no one followed through? And it transforms your church life. See, pastors leading thriving networks have 20 to 30 meetings like this a week, where they're meeting with their leaders, and then their leaders are meeting with other people, developing them. And the temptation is to get bogged down in the minutia and the trivial, but you are an apostle, and you are called to change culture. And how do you change culture? You start by changing the church. And how do you start by changing your church? You do it by changing one person at a time. And the reason most church leaders don't know how to parent is they never had it. Their leaders never did that to them. And we can either have a pity party or not, but you're in charge now. What are you going to do? Are you going to raise a generation of orphans as well? Or are you going to leave a legacy? And so what I want to ask you to do is to set up a second meeting where you meet with a strategic staff member. It can be your number two if you haven't done something like this, and start a relationship where you go, I want to develop you as a person, and us meet together every 2 weeks and talk about your life. And what happens over time is, as this person begins meeting their own goals, you start adding assignments in so that it's synergistic. They're not just meeting their own goals, they're meeting church goals as well and following up with you. You have to be careful here. Some senior leaders are really scattered brain, and we just dump stuff onto people, and that can't happen. You have to prioritize in your mind when you expect execution from people, what exactly you're asking them to do.